Danger. Spotting the narcissist who runs to YouTube. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I provide you with lots of information about the behaviours of narcissists to aid you in spotting them. My books, Red Flag and Black Flag, set out in detail many of those indicators. I make it clear that one act alone cannot be determinative, it is merely indicative. But there are certain acts that you ought to have due regard to cause you to think, I perhaps need to look deeper into this individual. That is a glaring red flag. And one of those glaring red flags that you will often see related to the behaviour of a narcissist is the propensity of a narcissist to go running to YouTube to tell the world about the way that they have been treated. Now, of course, this isn't just applicable to YouTube. You can see it on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on blogs, and so on and so forth. Many individuals experience difficulties in their life, threats to their health, threats to their well-being, difficulties in bringing up their children, setbacks with work. Life throws difficult things at them. Many people talk about it with friends and family to garner support and push through it. Some people just suck it up themselves and don't even mention it to anybody, showing a particular type of fortitude whereby they shoulder the burden, perhaps unnecessarily, trying to get through the particular crisis or difficulty themselves. Those stoic individuals forge through the difficulties, sometimes alone, sometimes gaining some help. However, there are certain individuals whose first reaction upon coming across some form of difficulty isn't to enlist some help, but is to go running to social media to scream to the world about the way that they have been treated. Now, I must emphasize that the act itself does not mean of itself that that person is a narcissist, but it is a fairly strong indicator, and therefore it is worth examining other conduct of the individual concerned to see if other red flags are spotted. There can be some individuals that take to social media to complain about things, and unfortunately, as a consequence of the way that the backdrop has become more narcissistic, that kind of behaviour has entered the mainstream. You'll have seen this, individuals who will write, I'm fuming right now, because they want some attention. They want people to say, what's up, hun? That individual is not necessarily a narcissist, and they've fallen prey to the drug that is social media to use it as a means to continue to get people to respond to them. The odd comment such as that isn't determinative and is only a mild indicator. But what you're looking for is individuals that make a complete song and dance where they go to social media and it becomes a preoccupation of theirs to tell the world about the way that they have been treated. They, of course, are telling the world that they are a victim of some unpleasant behaviour, that they are the victim of some awful conduct by somebody else, and they want the world to know. The first question you should ask yourself is, but why should the world know? What's the world going to do about it? Is Joe from Alabama going to intervene in the personal difficulties of Fred from Luton in the United Kingdom? No, he's not. Of course, if you were to put that question to the creator of the drama, they would suggest, I want to bring greater awareness to this particular problem so that people know that this goes on. Or I want to be able to reach out to similar people who've suffered, that we can perhaps come together and form some kind of action group. It all appears noble, but invariably, such activities actually just ends up creating groups of similar like-minded narcissists that creates a pit of wallowing. The fact is that ordinarily, when you suffer some kind of setback, having emotional empathy, a sense of boundary recognition, lacking a need for control over people, not needing to cultivate fuel, the last thing that would be on your mind is, I know I'm going to go and make a video about my experiences. Now, some people much later on do so because they want to help, for instance, victims of narcissists. But it wasn't their knee-jerk response. They did it sometime later, after the event, often when they realise, for instance, that they've been ensnared by a narcissist, that they then decide, do you know what? I want the world to understand more about this, and I want the world to understand that there are people like this out there. But they may do it months, even years after all of the events that they talk about. And one can discern a different approach amongst those genuine empathic victims compared to where it's done by a narcissist. In some instances, the differentiation can be more difficult and requires the skilled observation of one such as I, who are able to pick out the various behaviours for you. You probably can think of instances where you've come across perhaps a forum or a group that you suspect has been run by a narcissist to garner, control and fuel the support forum fraud, which I've spoken about elsewhere. Or you've probably come across videos that you've seen on YouTube, that you've seen on Facebook, that you've seen on TikTok, and you've thought to yourself, this person's parading themselves as a victim of a narcissist, or a victim of unpleasant behaviour, or a victim of an abuser, but actually I think they're the narcissist. A notable example of that that's been doing the rounds concerns a woman who created a video in relation to the fact that her daughter had gone no contact with her. In fact, both her daughters had done so. This individual was brought to my attention by a number of you, and your suspicions have been played out and have been confirmed. This individual created what struck me, and I've watched the video, something akin to a Hallmark production of woe is me, my awful daughter no longer speaks to me, and I cannot understand why, because I'm such a wonderful mother. And here are my attempts to try and get her back on side and reach out to her, yet she rebuffs me at every turn. This is awful. Throughout the video, the individual can be seen acting in a sanctimonious manner. The individual concerned relays events but doesn't actually give you the evidence. For instance, references made to a letter, but you never actually see the content of it. She just tells you what's in it. And it's done in a way which infantilizes the daughter. It's quite a reasonably stylized production. As I said, it made me think of a Hallmark movie when I saw it. And it's less about, this is what has happened to me, and I want other people to know about it to help them, and all about, I want you to feel sorry for me because I need to get control over my daughter. She has cut me off. That's not right. That's not fair. And of course, that offends that subconscious need for control. The individual never shows any sadness at what's going on, but rather simmering fury and indignation. The individual presents it all. Personal matters, which actually should be kept private, thus showing no boundary recognition, puts it out there for all of the world to see. Of course, if you were to explain all of this to the offending individual, she simply wouldn't get it. She simply would not accept that she is a narcissist and is behaving like one with regard to the various pity plays, lack of boundary recognition, the sense of entitlement to share personal information in this way, showing no accountability, no self-reflection for the behaviours that she's engaged in. Indeed, I understand that a certain individual invited the person to self-reflect on what she might have done to contribute to the state of affairs, and the individual concerned just dismissed that, thus emphasising what she is. Furthermore, I also understand that a number of channels that actually covered this individual have found themselves on the receiving ends of bot attacks trying to support the originator of the video and also firing off unsubstantiated copyright strikes against individuals who've used some of the footage from the video. Naturally, they've used that video footage to make a point about the behaviour of the creator of the video and its fair use. But of course, all of this criticism of her conduct, the labelling of her as being a narcissist or narcissistic, offends her need for control, and therefore she has deleted comments which have criticised her and has gone on the offensive against certain channels which have criticised her conduct, or at least just comment about it for the purposes of educating other people, thus reinforcing what she actually is. You see, rather than try and resolve the matter with her daughter, rather than sit and think, what has gone on here? What could I have done to bring about this state of affairs? Her immediate reaction was, I'm now going to spend time and money creating quite a slick video to complain about the way that I've been treated, and essentially smear her daughter to the world, which, as you know, because the daughter has gone no contact, she can't assert control over her daughter directly, and therefore her narcissism has shifted her to the second assertion of control, which is smearing, indirect triangulation. Thus, you see the behaviour in action. I recall another instance whereby a lady linked her channel in the comment section to some of my videos, and I had a look clicking on one of the links. It hadn't been particularly well viewed, and it showed her creating a video to camera, having a meltdown in a car about something that purportedly the ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend had done. That she was screaming about basically having some kind of anxiety attack, that her heart was coming out of her chest, that she didn't feel well. Now, I'm no doctor, but it would occur to me that if I were driving along and heard some news which caused me to have heart palpitations, a heart that was hammering out of my chest, and that I wasn't feeling very well and I was having difficulty with breathing, what would my options be? A, pull over and call the emergency services. B, drive to a hospital. C, go to your doctors. D, pull over and try and calm down. E, immediately create a video to upload as a live stream to YouTube. She went for option E, which of course is demonstrative of a need for fuel, a need to assert control over the ex-boyfriend, and the ranting and raving was indicative of the ignition of heated fury. Again, an individual who went racing to YouTube to talk about their woes. I tell you about aspects of my life and the way that I interact with people, but also about narcissism generally, and I use YouTube. But I'm honest about what I am. I tell you that I am a narcissistic psychopath and that I'm using this platform for my own purposes to extend my legacy. But there are so many unaware narcissists that create videos seeking sympathy, smearing individuals. Unfortunately, sometimes this happens where an innocent victim gets drawn in, and you then get these almost flame wars where the narcissist says something about the victim with high emotional thinking responds, which of course threatens the narcissist's need for control. And there's a series of videos back and forth between the two individuals where they're reacting and commenting, taking apart the other person's video. And often that becomes very difficult for third-party observers to think who's who in this exchange. Are they both narcissists? Which one is the narcissist? Sides are taken. The comment section is resplendent with people attacking one another as a war breaks out across YouTube between these two individuals. Often they're not necessarily seen by thousands, but they're picked up by a small group that becomes Team 1 or Team 2. But people fail to understand what's truly going on there. The narcissist, in order to assert control, will use a platform such as YouTube in order to get their message across, which invariably is, because they believe themselves to be the victim, this person has done this to me, I've been hurt, they're an awful human being, feel sorry for me, watch out for this person, don't have anything to do with them. It's a direct assertion of control over a viewership with varying success. Some of these channels have very few viewers, others, the videos get thousands of views. And it's also an indirect assertion control over the other individual. Now, in some instances, the other individual might be a narcissist, but commonly they are an innocent victim who's being smeared by a narcissist. It's very tempting for that individual to want to do something about the offending video, but the best thing they can do is ignore it unless the video becomes so widespread it's impacting your day-to-day life and your livelihood. If you try and fight against it, well, of course, the narcissist wants the fight and wants your reaction, and you're giving the narcissist what they want. You're better served either using the law to have it dealt with where it's causing major problems for you, or more usually, it's just unpleasant and not nice for this to be said about you, but you're much better off ignoring it, because eventually the narcissist will become bored and will focus on somebody else rather than you. That's the best way to deal with when you're being smeared. But it is important to explain to people that you should regard with a degree of wariness videos where there is somebody ranting and raving about the way that they've been treated, especially where they're bandying around the term narcissist. Those that are genuine victims tend to be a little more considered in what they have to say. They will perhaps post videos which let them speak for themselves. So they've got footage of the exchange between them and the narcissist, which they just upload without commentary, allowing you to form your own mind as to what's going on. But where you've got something which is over-dramatized, that is exaggerated, and you can see plainly that's the case, that it seems to have happened very recently, and it's very fresh, or that there's repeated instances of this behaviour, taking to the airwaves, if you will, to complain about the latest thing that has been done. It doesn't automatically mean that you're listening to a narcissist, but there's a strong possibility that you are, and you need to treat that information with considerable caution as to what you're being told. It is often the case that the narcissist will run to YouTube and other forms of social media as a means to pursue the prime aims. Have you ever witnessed that? Have you ever seen this arise? And what were the circumstances? Let me know in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.